Okay, so one of the ways that you can approach this is to think of a freeform shape in relationship to that hillside, right? So this was one that I did the other day, so I'm going to do kind of another one, a different one for you guys today. And I'm going to think of it as if the slope is over here. Does that, because that's here.
Yes, it does.
Trade places. So I'm going to think, oh, the slope is somewhere like right in here. Okay? So I'm going to kind of come up with a form. It could be that I kind of use those things to kind of generate the shape, but I could say it's kind of a freeform shape that I've generated, right? It starts out somewhere over in here and swiggles around and ends up here. Okay? So the first thing is to kind of develop that freeform shape. Sometimes you guys can think of it as like, looks like to me like a letter G, right? Or you can think of it as a letter S, or maybe an H, right? You have to be careful because sometimes you can create things that don't translate well into lines. At any rate, I'm going to move this forward. This is the one I did for you guys just now. Let me show you what the next step in this process is. The next step in this process is the abstraction of those curving lines into about 5 to 6, no, not 5 to 6. Anywhere from 4 to 7 of these lines. Understand that each line is going to represent a level. So you have to be a little bit careful in how many lines you're using. Okay? So you can see the G below, or that G shape that's below, and you can see how I have abstracted it into a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. Right? Okay? So that's my next step. So I'll take this one that I've drawn for you guys. Kind of looks like you could take one of these things and bend it into that shape, you know. So okay, so I'm going to set some material over top of it, and try to abstract that. So I'm going to start with this line here, and that's going to be 1, right? Now I've got to kind of translate into this thing. So I'm going to draw a line that kind of comes over this way. That's going to be 2. And remember, I'm limiting myself to the number of lines. I'm also trying to not get them to where, see how narrow this is? It's pretty narrow from there to there, right? I'm trying to give it a little bit more width. So the next thing I'm going to do is maybe come to about here. Okay? Then I'm going to go out to about here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And for the final one, I can just go that way, and that's 5. That make sense? So you understand step 1. Step 1 was the creation of this sort of winding, squiggling, freeform piece. Step 2 is the derivation of approximately 4 to 7 straight line segments, right, that are essentially, they're determining the path for these things. If you think about the path for this, right, if I was to draw the path for this one, right, that path might look like this. Right? It could also look like this. So straight line here, back that way, and then across. So all we're trying to do is we're trying to use this thing to generate the line geometry that we need. How many minutes am I at? 5. Okay, so good so far. So good so far. All right. So now it gets complicated. So I'm going to move this off to the side and kind of show you guys this G shape. I'm going to leave that lined up so you see the relationship of the two. So the next thing that happens is you end up starting to turn those shapes into these platform pieces. Okay? So do you see that line down below that formed the top edge of the G there? That became that piece there. And then this part of the G became this piece here, and that one became that piece there. Notice that I have a lot of latitude in how wide I make stuff, right? But let me show you this. That is that. Those are those shapes. Okay? Make sense? And sometimes it looks better when you invert it. You don't know. So how many minutes are we at? 6. So go ahead and stop the video at that point.